Okay, there we go. So welcome. I'm glad you're with me. Here we are talking about iridology equipment today. And we're going to talk about cameras. Now, for those of you who are just starting out and don't have a big wad of cash just waiting to be spent on a good iridology setup, don't worry. I'm going to be addressing those needs today as well. So my name is Judith Cobb. I am a master herbalist, a natural nutrition clinical practitioner, and a comprehensive certified iridology instructor. Some of you have been following me for a while, and you know that I tend to come down pretty hard on people using smartphones for iridology photos. I do a specific one of these little sessions all about that and how bad that is. So what you're looking at on your screen right now is a set of iris photos that were done with a smartphone. So whether you want an iris assessment done, or maybe you're an iridologist doing iris assessments, can we agree that the quality of the photo is going to have a huge impact on your assessment? Do we agree on that? Yeah. That's a really important thing. You know, when we talk about quality of photos, we're looking at what kind of lens is used, how far away the eye is from the camera lens, the resolution, so how many megapixels, and we're also looking at the lighting. This is so important. Now, when we look at a smartphone, can I have your smartphone, honey? My smartphone is getting us onto Instagram Live. So when we look at a smartphone, and it doesn't matter whether you're looking at the outward facing lens or the inward facing lens, they are not designed to keep a rounded surface in focus up close. So what that means, thank you, darling. What that means, as you see on the images that are on your screen right now, is we get a lot of face. We get a lot of face. We don't get nearly so much eye. Hello, Natalie. Thanks for joining us on Instagram Live. I appreciate that. What we get is a lot of face. And that means that so much of the image that we really want to see as eye isn't there, right? We're seeing eyelid and cheek and all kinds of stuff. So that tells us that a smartphone resolution, which is typically on the good side 15 megapixels, on the selfie side it's usually 8 to 10 megapixels, that's not a high enough definition to get the kind of quality that we want to have when we're doing an iris assessment. And of course, then you need to crop these photos down. And when you crop them down, you get this, and you lose even more definition. Now, I know those of you who are with me on Instagram Live, you're looking at a smartphone image of a computer image of a smartphone image. So you're losing a lot of definition with all of that lens that's going on in there. But again, the distance from the face allows for a lot of light interference. And you can see that right here. You can see how the top of the eye is so much brighter than the bottom. That's a lot of light interference. And often we'll see reflections or we'll see interesting shadows because of where the lights are. Sometimes on selfie photos or smartphone photos, we see literally reflections of windows or trees outside or buildings outside. It's really interesting. We can't do an assessment through that kind of visual noise. This photo, however, is pretty good. When we enlarge it, it doesn't lose a whole lot of definition, but again, we can see all of that shadow in there. Not even sure what it's from. Maybe it's from eyelashes, who knows? And so when we are looking at this whole concept, what we need to be remembering is that the quality of the photo is everything. If the quality of the photo is not up to snuff, the quality of the assessment can't be any better than the photo. I've been in practice for about 40 years now. And my clientele that started with me way back then were all young couples just starting their families. Now those young couples are my age, because I was a young couple back then when I started out too, part of a young couple. And so now all of our children are in their 20s and 30s, and those people are now my clients, and those people are having babies, and those babies are my clients too. And so what I have learned over the years is that there's not typically one set of equipment that is good for everybody. I've learned that certain certain situations, certain types of people, certain age brackets of people do better with different kinds of iridology equipment. So I actually have 3 different sets of iridology equipment that I use, and I use them based on who my client is. So from this, I like to encourage everyone to choose who your first and most important client demographic is. So if you're primarily working with children under the age of 12, your camera setup will be different than if you're primarily working with, say, 15 to 40-year-olds. If you're doing a lot of work with senior citizens, your camera setup is going to need to be very similar to what it is when you're working with children. If you're working with animals, you need the child or senior setup as well. And then, of course, the handheld just goes for anybody. So when you are looking for iridology equipment, the foundation of your equipment is your camera. Now, I have always favored the Canon. I love the Canon Rebel series. Not that I'm a professional photographer by any stretch of the imagination, but I love this, the Rebel series. It just does the job. This is a 24 megapixel, and it's a beautiful, beautiful machine. This is also the camera series that Matthew Dahmer from Iris Labs prefers. He is the designer of this piece that's on the end of my camera called the IE4 or Iris Explorer 4. Now, I love this setup for most of my clients, not all of them. It requires a 60 millimeter macro lens and a couple of extension tubes to give you the right focal length in your lens. Now, when we do this, this part of the camera is going to go right up against our client's face. That's going to block out all of the ambient lighting. We're not going to get any light reflections from anywhere. And this camera is really, really special in that it has, and you can see this in here, 2 lights inside that face piece. Now, not only are there 2 lights, but if I only want one of them on, or if I only want the other one on, can you actually see those going off and on? Ah, it is malfunctioning for some reason. Let me just turn it off again. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have a chat with Matthew Dahmer because now it doesn't even want to turn off. That is very embarrassing that it's not working properly, because that should be turning off just fine right there. And let's see. Well, it is not. They are supposed to turn off one at a time when you press one button or the other button. So we'll be having a chat with Matthew about that, and he's very good with his customer service, so that's a good thing. Let me just show you how this works. We're going to have my daughter come forward and lean into the picture. Now, one of the beautiful things about this is you don't need a tripod. You don't need, in fact, a tripod is kind of awkward with this because this is going right against her face. So I want you to notice how I'm holding this with my thumb under it, and then I'm going to bring this right in. And I'm going to say open as wide as you can. And there we go. Beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. You see that? Now it's kind of bleached out on your camera screen, but it takes a gorgeous, beautiful picture, right? And then when the lighting is working properly, you can turn off one side or the other and get side lighting. And we're going to talk about side lighting in just a moment because that's a very important feature. That is how easy this one is to use because it's an autofocus lens. So I don't need to be super duper snazzy, snappy like that. Here are some other examples of images that were taken with the IE4. We're going to pop that camera around. There we go. And then when we blow that up, we do not lose definition, and that is really cool. So if you notice on this first image, we've got 2 lights. And then on the second, we have 1 light. Now, the reason we want that is because flipping back here, even if this was larger, we cannot see all of the definition, especially things like contraction furrows and gateway arches. But you can see very nicely when we have only 1 light that it casts shadows and it makes those contraction furrows absolutely pop. So if you already have a camera set up and if you can change the lighting from one side to the other, that will help you to see contraction furrows. So that's your super little takeaway tip for today. Now, I always do take photos first with both lights and then with one light on and then with the other light on, and it just works really well for me to see all kinds of detail. So the next setup that I want to show you is the one designed by John Miles. Now, John Miles has done some beautiful work. He's been in the industry for a very long time, and he specifically, he worked with Bernard Jensen and was designing cameras back when Bernard Jensen was alive. So that's very cool. So to put this one on, just goes on like that. So really, really easy. We have our power switch down here that turns on our focus light. And this is going to use the camera flash to do the illumination with. And that's really nice. It also has this little sliding door here. And I don't know if you can see that well. When it's in the center, it's going to let the flash go down both of these fiber optic tubes. If we have it on one side, it's going to give us light down one tube, and if we slide it the other way, it gives us light going down the other tube. So as we look at this, again, this is, it's a 100mm macro lens, and we use this as a manual focus. So we're really, you can put this on a tripod if you want, but the tripods and chin rests are just awkward. I prefer to just slide the camera in and out and rotate the dial for the focus, and that tends to work really well. So let's just pop back here to Matthew Dahmer for a moment. Who do I like this for? I like this for people who can open their eyes wide. That is typically people between the ages of about 12 or 15 and about 45. Younger children have a harder time opening their eyes wide. Seniors end up with droopy eyelids, and animals don't like having anything right up against their face. So this is better for young children, including infants, seniors, and pets. Let me show you how this one works. Let's have you lean forward, honey. You always have your client lean forward onto their chin like so, because that becomes their tripod. And then you need to be stabilized too. So your tripod is also your arm. So you need to figure out where you need to be and how you need to support your camera to get this all right. And then we've got our light turned on nice and bright so that we're focusing, and we've got illumination to focus with. And there we go. And look at that gorgeous picture. Isn't that just beautiful? And then again, we can go to one side light. Or the other, whichever we like, or we can do both. Beautiful, clear, lovely pictures from this machine as well, with the option of having your either lights, you know, both lights, left light or right light, depending on what you need. Now, again, this doesn't have an autofocus, so you're either moving your camera back and forth, or you're just slightly rotating the focus dial to get your good clean focus that you're looking for. In addition, because this one doesn't go right up against the face, you might get a little teeny bit of ambient light from that, but the focus light does a good job of minimizing any of the ambient light that might try to creep in. So again, you know, as we look at cameras, it's really important to remember that you don't have to start there, right? I am a comprehensive certified iridology instructor, and I will tell you that most of my students don't have $3,500 US sitting in their back pocket just waiting to buy a camera, right? Most of them don't, and I would never have one of my students buy a camera out of the starting blocks anyways. I prefer to get them started with handheld equipment. So a lighted magnifier is a nice place to start, but I also like to use a separate pen light with this. That way, again, I can move my light around, get my light where I want it, and cast the shadows I need in order to see things like gateway arches and contraction furrows. I actually prefer using my jeweler's loop. This is an 8-power jeweler's loop. And again, I would just, show you how this one works. Really, really simple. You just bring it up to their eye, bring your light in from whatever direction you want, and get your nice focus. And you can see so many things, and you can move it around, move your light around to see the colors and the textures and the different markers that you are looking for. Now, a lot of my students ask me, what about these iriscopes that you see on the market? What about them? Are they worth buying? My feeling is no. No, I always say don't buy inexpensive equipment that's going to fill the gap, that's going to delay you getting the right equipment. I would rather see you spend $45 or $50 on this kind of equipment first, and then start saving your money to buy a really nice setup. Iriscopes typically are a 1 or 2 megapixel resolution, which is nowhere near what we need them to be. When we look at iriscope photos, and I'm going to flip this camera around again, these photos were done with an iriscope. They're not bad. Actually, as far as iriscope goes, they're pretty decent. But what we're going to find is, because with an iriscope, you cannot control whether you're using right light or left light. You're always using straight on light. That frontal lighting is going to hide things like your contraction furrows and your gateway arches. It may even make a ropey collarette look flat. And then you miss that assessment as well, right? So I don't encourage my students to get iriscopes. I really do encourage them to just get plain, simple, handheld equipment. That's where we want people starting, is with good handheld equipment. When it comes to buying the camera, you know, all of these people who build camera setups like John Miles and Matthew Dahmer, they all do sell cameras as well. None of them are offended by you buying your own camera. So my recommendation is shop local. Watch the sales that are local. If you can buy the camera body on sale, go you. If you can buy the lens on sale, go you. So you buy your camera and it takes you 6 months to get the lens. Oh well, at least you got them on sale. And then once you've got your camera and your body, you can order your lighting setup, and that would, by spreading it out, it makes it a little less painful on the bank account. If you've spent good money on learning iridology, you've spent good money taking classes and courses and workshops, why would you not want to spend good money on your equipment? Why would you spend money on a program that does the analysis for you? It's never going to be able to give you a good constitutional analysis. It's going to give you a very non-triangulated analysis. It's going to point out all the markers, but you can see those with your naked eye. So why would you spend time or money buying equipment or a program that would do the analysis for you? Really, doing a powerful constitutional analysis should only take you 10 to 15 minutes. It should not take you long at all, because you're not nitpicking those tiny details. So those are the key things that you need to know about getting good equipment, using good equipment, the equipment that I recommend. And you need to eventually have good equipment if you want to be taken seriously as an iridologist. If you're just starting out, start with your handheld, start saving your money up to buy the other equipment as you can, but don't buy inexpensive, substandard, intermediate equipment. So there you have it. Thank you so much for being with me today. I really do appreciate it, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Bye for now. I never remember how to turn this off. And thank you. We're done. We're done. We're disconnected off Facebook too. As soon as I do that,